Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the World Building Podcast. This is the podcast where every week we take a random prompt and create a world based around it. My name is Casey, and today I'm joined by an overexcited Isaac.
Hello there. So, I came up with an idea for world building, and what this one's going to be is it's going to be a sci-fi world. And yes, we're world building a sci-fi world. And I thought of this idea of there being a planet out of like a set of like there's several planets in this system, but there's this one planet in particular that in the core of its Earth, it's not a magma. It is instead like a toxic ooze that emits like also a gas. It's very toxic, and I'm thinking it would be orange and not green because we just did something that was green, a green ooze just a couple days ago or weeks ago. So this one, I was thinking we're making it orange, and then one day it starts erupting from the center of the Earth all over, or not the Earth, whatever this planet is, all over the planet from multiple different locations, and it is now rendering the planet uninhabitable, or at least borderline uninhabitable. And you can get infected by this by breathing in like a gas that it emits, or by touching it, or somehow ingesting it, or whatever. And you can then get sick, and you can spread it to others. And so what's happened is this planet has now been confined and isolated from the rest of the system. No one is allowed off the planet, and some people are allowed on the planet. Very few people are allowed to go onto the planet, but they are going there to collect some of this this toxic material. And when they go there to collect this material, they are telling the population of the world, you must stay here to protect the rest of the world, but we are going to be taking this toxic material to try and find a cure for it and a way to counteract it and like get rid of it and eliminate it so that your planet is now
But in reality,
habitable.
they're weaponizing it?
I thought about weaponizing it, and I was like, that could be one option, but another option is this substance acts as an excellent fuel source. It's a very cheap fuel source, and it's very, very efficient. And they're harvesting it.
So they're actually probably trying to mass produce it so that way they can keep more, but they're causing these people to suffer because of it?
Yes. And the thing is, they are not allowed to leave the planet, so they don't even know that it's being used as fuel. They don't have all this knowledge on the outside world, only what people bring to them. But these are like government officials coming down to the planet to be like, all right, so here's what's going on. And they're, of course, lying. And so now...
As they do.
Yes, of course. And so they are they're secretly not looking for a cure at all, because if they manage to cure them and they manage to start eliminating this this toxic waste or gas or whatever it is, it gets rid of their infinite fuel source. And so they're just going to keep on coming back down and harvesting it. Meanwhile, they're having these people who live there, they're saying, hey, so the planet's uninhabitable, or basically uninhabitable. Like, you can't grow anything there. You can't grow food, otherwise it'll be infected, and there's no clean, like, farmland or anything like that. So we're going to bring down clean water and clean food for you guys so you can live. But in that time, you need to be collecting all of this.
So they're for slave labor.
Yeah, so our top scientists can all look at it. We're going to have a bunch of scientists on multiple different planets looking at this stuff, trying to figure out how we can fight back against it. And that's why we need so much of it. It's to send it to a bunch of people to get this done as fast as humanly possible, but really they're just using it as fuel. And then...
Nice. But what if you... Okay, you still got more?
Yeah, I've got more! And then we've got our main character, who is... I decided this one would be a female main character. We do enough male main characters. And so we got a female main character protagonist for this one, and she her parents have died because they worked harvesting the toxic waste and stuff. And so she's an orphan because, of course, classic protagonists must be orphaned. And and I was thinking that she could go and uncover this devious plot. And she has something else I thought of is that before she figures out is she's always had a dream of leaving the planet, but she's never been able to leave the planet and see what the rest of the system looks like because it's illegal. She's not allowed to leave. And maybe the way she figures out that this devious plot is that she sneaks onto a ship from one of the government officials and leaves the planet to find out what's going on. And then it becomes a plot of her trying to save the planet, and they get people to fight back.
So, a quick question more about the ooze. What effect does it actually have on the people? Like, are the people actually infected with something that's dangerous to be contaminated to others, or is it all like a fabricated lie?
Oh, it's legitimately dangerous.
Okay.
This is why they're enslaving like the population to harvest all of this for them, so that they don't have to get infected.
So what's the infection look like for the people? Like, how is it killing them?
I'm gonna say it makes their veins start to look like it's popping out of their skin, turning. Maybe they turn a slight shade of orange. Maybe it turns super pale. They
I mean, you could take this whole plot though like a step further, and that the ooze isn't actually that toxic, but they're like also poisoning the food and water they're sending down to convince the people that it is. So just so they could have enslaved labor to harvest it.
I mean, you could. I'm just trying to figure out like why wouldn't they harvest it themselves then instead of having the population? Because the idea is they're having.
Isaac? That's work. It could still be hard to harvest.
I mean, it's everywhere. It's not hard. It's everywhere. The hard part is that it's dangerous.
But think about this. You could have, either you could go and you could mine it yourself and you have to pay these people to do it and it's money and all that. Or you could have these people who feel like they're indebted to you for trying to save their lives, and all you pay them is like food and water and basic necessities.
Yeah, but like that's the idea. But I just don't see why we need to make it so that they're intentionally poisoning their food and stuff rather than just make it so that the toxic waste and the ooze and stuff is legitimately deadly.
So how long do like people have to work until it kills them?
Good question. I suppose it could mostly. It might depend on like the specific environment that they're in. Like, is there a extra large amount in the area that they are collecting from, and then maybe it could start taking effect on them faster. They probably have to wear some protective equipment so that they don't start breathing in, maybe like gas masks and stuff.
Yeah, but I think the key thing is that they're already infected, whether they like it or not.
Yeah, pretty much everybody is on this planet. I was thinking it was so bad that pretty much everybody on this planet is affected at least to a degree. But
yeah,
some
so
are
like
worse than others.
Our main girl here is also actually infected with it, and so she does have to deal with that, and that she is being killed by this stuff.
Yes. Or maybe it's not even killing her, assuming she's not terribly infected. Like, you could probably be mildly infected and be fine, but if you spend enough time working with it, if you're getting too close, if you're not wearing the correct equipment and protective gear, then you could be in much more serious danger.
But at the same time, she was like born on this planet, I assume. So I think there's that dynamic of just growing up on a planet covered in toxic goo. You're gonna get sick, you're gonna get infected. I don't think there's any way to fully avoid it.
Now the question is, can you build immunity to it?
That's true. So are these kids second, third, fourth generation kids doing better than their parents were when the planet first erupted.
I think that's a good little extra bit of, I guess you could call it somewhat plot convenience, because this way we get a protagonist that is going to be more capable than the average. Yeah, going to be more capable than the average person, because she was born right around the time that the planet started erupting. And I thought about an idea if
well, I think she'd be like a second generation or something. Like, the planet's already settled down, but she was born and grew up in this environment. Like, second or third generation.
Yeah, something I was thinking about. I thought of an idea for a name for her, which is Petal, because it's supposed to be, she's as beautiful as the bright petals that would bloom in the springtime, and and she was also the one last beautiful thing to her parents on this planet post destruction of the planet and post eruption, and then they died.
And then she's never seen a flower before, so what does she know what it looks like?
Yeah, and that could be another thing. Is just like, I've always wanted to see petals. I've always wanted to see flowers, but never got the chance. And that's like one of the big reasons is she leaves. She wants to see, maybe she wants to see the galaxy, but the one thing or a thing in particular that she really wants to see is a flower.
Aw. That's one way to pull on audience's heartstrings.
Yes, like, like I said, I had a lot of ideas just flowing through my head, and more and more.
I've noticed. I'm just along for the ride. I'm just here as a background character. You can keep going. This seems.
Yeah, like I said, I had like, if I had just let this go on for like another week before we started recording.
Oh yeah, this for reference. We recorded last week's yesterday, and then he messaged me this afternoon being like, hey, we need to do another one. So yeah, I was kind of prepared for it, kind of not.
Now I'm also trying to think of like what types of creatures are living on this planet, like in particular, like what is our main character, because they're not humans, these are alien planets. And I'm thinking
we have a sci-fi element that I completely forgot while I was listening to your description.
So what I'm thinking is that maybe these characters, they would be humanoid first off, because humanoid aliens, like, they're some of the easier ones to work with. You can make them feel more human, but still they don't look, they're still distinct, different way.
Yeah.
And let's give them tails. Let's give them diamond chain-like tails, and make them
I mean, I guess they should be made to just conveniently to harvest. Like, I guess, what if what they were doing beforehand, what if this place was always like a mining planet? Like, they had other resources they were mining up before the ooze came and took over, so they're really well apt and like developed for that process, which makes them more valuable to the other aliens who are coming down and taking charge of them, because these people are like made for this.
Okay, so I was thinking a similar thing. So imagine if they had like a tail, and this tail was kind of like a chain, but instead of it looking like a bunch of normal chain links, it looks more like a bunch of diamonds all laid out next to each other with their points touching.
What would be the purpose of that?
I'm thinking
just looks.
I was thinking it could be almost like a tool for, or it could act almost like a tool for mining. Like, it could essentially act like a pickaxe, kind of. I don't know.
Yeah.
To just be sharp and very solid, and also flexible, and they can build muscle in it to hit harder. And also, this gives our protagonist a weapon. Like a very distinct weapon.
I guess also if it's like, yeah, but if it's also like, if it is bright like diamond and shiny, it also makes hiding harder, which could be funny.
Oh, that's another thing. The species could just be very Like you could have the species just in general be a very bright colored, shiny sort of looking species. Like their skin could be pretty reflectant. And if we're going the diamond route, it could be like a blue, reflective skin, and maybe a similar thing with the hair.
But they could have a hard skin, which could give them a little bit of a health boost.
Yeah.
It means that she can jump out of things and get into more dangerous situations without dying instantly. So you can have more epic fight scenes. Or adventures in that sense.
And when she goes to sneak onto a ship, or sneak past guards, whatever else she's doing, she's wearing a whole lot of black.
Yep. I don't know how she got hold of said black, but she probably found... What's do the aliens who are like the scientists who are taking the goo look like? And is this like an outfit that they would wear?
I was about to say, they're all wearing black outfits with black gas masks on to make sure that they don't get infected, and black gloves. Like they're completely protected. And so if she were to steal one of these outfits, she would be completely covered.
Yeah, because that would make sense. They wouldn't want... If they get infected, then they have to stay on the planet via their own rules.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, they're the...
Has that happened, actually?
Are
there some of those aliens who got, like, stuck here?
Maybe. I think what might happen here is that because there are these people who are, have these rules in place, they're aware that there is no cure being made. They're aware that they're not planning on rectifying everything. So what if maybe there was a cure made, but it was only for people who got it's not made for the people who are on the planet. It's made for the people who are delivering the waste from the planet to be used as fuel.
That would make sense too, because then they also could take it as like a safety precaution. Because if this is a contagious thing, you don't want it spreading.
And so one of the things that the protagonist now has as a goal is to get this cure to the planet, into her people.
And honestly, a way she could discover the cure is if she gets caught on the ship, but they have like a schedule to keep. They're gonna have to give her the cure because they don't want her to spread the contagion on the ship and stuff, or to the other planets. So they have no choice but to expose that they have this.
The thing is, once she has the cure and she gets it used on her, because she's been sick her whole life, and so if she were to take the cure and then suddenly like lose the sickness, she's gonna feel extremely strong, stronger than she ever has, feeling much sharper.
It could take some time. Okay, here's the thing. That takes time. Like, you can be cured of something, but that doesn't change the fact that your body's been wrecked by it. Like, that's not how, if you think about how cancer patients work, that's not how it works.
We're in a sci-fi,
you wish,
you're in a sci-fi setting. We can do what we want.
Yeah, but I don't think we should be giving her a major power boost because she's got the cure. But she has a lighter one, and now she has the ability to go stronger. And I also think this introduces an element in that they won't let her back to her bring her back to her planet. Like, they're not going to let her go back. She can't go back now. They're not going to let her. So yeah, she wants to give the cure to her people. She wants to go back. She wants to help them. She wants to expose this company. But is the company
government
gonna let her? No. Government.
We're going government route. If we're doing company, like, I feel like the company could be shut down. We're talking about the brainwashing of an entire planet.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, no, this is a government. Yeah, the government's not going to let her. I don't know what they would do with her. Like, you'd think they'd want to kill her or out her out, but maybe there's some other use
I think they'd want to kill her. They'd want to make sure that she never knows, because they know that she's going to be determined to go back. And they don't, and even if they're not sure, they don't want to take any risks, so they're going to try and kill her. And so now, suddenly, she's a fugitive, and so any planet she goes to, they're just broadcasting, if you see this lady, call the authorities.
True, she'd also be the only one of her kind.
Yeah, that too. Like, you could have, so she would stand out like a sore thumb. You could actually have a classic, like, bounty hunter situation on your hand where a bunch of bounty hunters are going after her. And, like, a classic bounty hunter sci-fi setting, been done to death, but that's because it's cool.
You could also have the classic bounty hunter, the lover trope.
You could have that as well.
It's classic.
Like that.
Well.
That could be a plot that happens. Is you could have the bounty hunter show up and then fall in love with her, and he would be a very Flynn Rider kind of guy.
It would be. That was my first thought. I'm like, this feels very. She wants to go see the lights. She wants to go see a flower field.
And he would bring her to a flower or a field of flowers. Or maybe extra special sci-fi alien planet flowers that when you go to the field, it's all dark, it's all black, it doesn't look very pretty. And she's like, why are we here? This place is boring. And he's like, wait for it. And then all of the flowers bloom and they open up and they emit a light and then fireflies come out. It'd be so romantic, it'd be so cute, it'd be so wholesome, and it would be amazing.
And then that song from Tangled that they sing when the Hoist of Lantern starts playing in the background. Yeah. Yup. I could see that happening. Because she needs a friend. She can't go into this world without a friend. She'll die.
Yes.
She'll get killed. But then it's back to business. They go see the flower field, she lives her life, and then she's like, okay, now I want to bring this to my people who it's time to take down. And then it goes from Tangled to Hunger Games.
Well,
and they take that route.
What if we had a story element where the bounty hunter is constantly saying, no, don't go back. Like, you will die. Why don't you just stay here? Of course, he doesn't want her to risk her life. Like, they just met and they're together now, and he would rather she stay an alive person.
Yeah, fair. Valid. But at the same time, it's her people. She's gonna do it. And he either has to help her or get out of her way. It's what that's gonna come into.
Yeah, I think that that could also be a source of conflict. Is okay, so I just thought of a little bit of a plot element. So she's after they go to like a field of flowers, he goes and he picks the prettiest one he can find and puts it in her hair or in her ear or whatever, and so she's
whatever she happens to have.
Yes, so now she's like wearing the flower around. But then they get into a fight where she's all like, I must go save my people. And then he's like, no, don't. You'll die. Stay here with me. And it escalates. She gets angry. And then before leaving him to go and get it, she throws the flower on the ground and steps on it as she walks away. Just heart-crushing moment.
I don't know, there's like the angry moment, but there's also like the softer disappointed moments, which I think she might be more, like the character we're building I feel would be more inclined to, where it's like you take the flower out and you put it back in his hands and says, if my people can't have these flowers, then I can't either, and then leaves. And I think that would be more heart-crushing than the full-blown angry
that
yelling
works
fight.
too. I like that too.
Yeah, I think she's more in that element, like she's not passionate, she's determined.
Yes, I like that.
Like a quiet fire, not a full blaze. Because we have, honestly, nowadays, especially female leads, we have too many overpassionate female leads in stories. I would like a calmer one who's just there to get the job done. I think it would be refreshing.
Ooh, another thing, you know how her tail can essentially act as a weapon? So what I'm thinking is she likely has no combat experience, or maybe she has very little. Maybe because she was orphaned, she's become sort of a rebel, or she's become a bit of a gangster or something. I don't know, because she hasn't had any parental figures to really raise her.
Oh, like have a reason to.
Yeah, so she has fight. Yes, which would give her even less of an infection, and so she would be even stronger from that. She's just got all kinds of things to make her just one of the strongest possible creatures on this planet.
So the question is, does she go full Hunger Games and go in the more like advertisement route and trying to like just make known what the government's doing to her people, or are we gonna go more you haven't read this, but the Han Solo trilogy where he comes in and just destroys the place and frees the people in the process.
I'm interested in a population uprising.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's more of a Hunger Games vibe then. Okay, we'll lean that way. That's good. I don't think many people listening would get the Han Solo reference, so it's
I'm interested in the idea of her going and inspiring her people.
I think that's more what she would do.
Her boyfriend, like if he had the capabilities, he might go and just blow stuff up, but she's more likely to try and inspire everyone. But here's an idea. So she goes to inspire them, and she's having trouble actually getting them to fight back, even if they've been exposed to the truth. They're still like, yeah, but here's the thing: they have weapons and we don't. Even though they are armed with their tails, but they're not using them for fighting, and they're not ranged weapons either.
Yeah.
And they're like, and we don't really have ships
true.
that we can use to fly off. Like all of our ships have been confiscated. Like, what are we supposed to do to fight back? We can't do anything. But then after like that whole betrayal and everything of him not wanting her to go, maybe he doesn't want to go himself to save them. Then her boyfriend shows up with his bounty hunter ship that's just armed with like this over-the-top arsenal, and he starts blowing up the facilities of the government that's just collecting all of this stuff.
And then arming the people.
Yes, and he starts arming the people, and he starts helping inspire them. It's like, look, we can fight back. We do have the means to attack them. Maybe he could also be not just be a bounty hunter, but he could also be a smuggler. Just all of the sci-fi tropes. And so he's a smuggler, and he brings down his ship, and he opens up like this hidden compartment in the floor, the walls, whatever, and it's just loaded with weapons.
We're just making the Han Solo trilogy. I'm okay with it, but like
I haven't read it. I'm not trying. That's not what I'm trying to do. I had no idea this was so similar.
It's got a lot. We've made a Han Solo. Her boyfriend is Han Solo.
Yeah, he's very similar to Han Solo.
Yeah. I mean, but everyone loves Han Solo, so I don't think that's a bad thing.
Yeah, but would Han Solo bring Leia to a field of flowers?
No, but he did something kind of similar with his first girlfriend in the actual trilogy.
Oh.
It's really good. Okay, like, honestly, people, if you can get your hands on the original Han Solo trilogy, so ignore the movie that came out. It did not do it justice. I watched the movie first, was like, this doesn't feel right. And then I read the books, and I'm like, oh, because this is what it's supposed to be. This is so much better. It makes Han Solo, like, you think you like him from the movies, but then you read his origin trilogy, and you like him even more. It's great.
Wow. I definitely... I will need to add that to the list.
I have it, so you can borrow it.
All right. Anyway, so... where else do we want to go with this? Do we want to world build like other planets that maybe she's running around and hopping on and off of, trying to dodge government? Like, what about the government itself? Do we want to world build the government?
Yeah, I think the government might be a good place to go for this, because so they have this is their fuel source. So is this government just like one neighboring planet, or is this like the whole solar system?
This is like the whole solar system. We got a bunch of different planets that it's overseeing.
Yeah. And
this one planet in particular, no one's allowed on or off of.
Okay. So is this, how is this, is this a dictator? Is this a, I assume it's not a voting system, because how could that be allowed to happen? But it could be. It could be a senate, or a republic, or a democratic, or a monarchy.
Imperial?
Isn't imperial just a fancy word for monarchy?
Not necessarily.
I don't know the difference.
I don't know all of the distinctions either, but like it's just whatever would result in, it's like whatever would result in a corrupted government that would be willing to isolate an entire planet. And
Isaac, that narrows it down to all of them.
But we're talking in a system where not only like people aren't allowed on, but these people
but,
who aren't allowed on, like they're. I'm just thinking,
go read
like
some history books.
Yeah, but I'm trying to think of how they could pull it off with like such a massive planet, because like you're talking, because it would be really hard to regulate the area around an entire planet.
I mean, if it's a corrupted, sickening planet in which you die if you go on it, or like you get poisoned and stuff, and if they are monopolizing the cure, which it sounds like they are, in that the cure is like a very little known thing and that very hush hush, then obviously people aren't gonna want to travel there. Like, it doesn't matter how good this fuel source is, if it's a guaranteed death going down there, you're not gonna take it.
I mean, everybody in the galaxy's already getting access to fuel because the government's collecting it and then selling it or distributing it or whatever to the people for a very, very low cost. Because it's
we can
it's in
also
an
say
abundance.
that like the air itself of the planet, well, it's slowly killing these people. It could be like insta deadly, like really deadly to everyone else.
Yeah.
Like these guys developed on this planet that had the goo in the background. Like the goo was always there, it just wasn't as prominent. But these other creatures didn't. They don't have that, so they're gonna come onto this planet and just be wrecked by it. So that could also be so there's lots of reasons why they don't have to be as strict monitoring the planet. But that still doesn't change the fact, like, you could have any type of government. Any type of government would be able / willing to do this. So the question is, what type do we just feel like in the moment? Dictator seems pretty big. Like, that's a lot of planets for one person. Can keep up with the Star Wars and have a Senate.
Yeah, I like the idea of a Senate. Some sort of Senate or a High Council or something.
Yeah. So each planet has like a representative who's involved in things.
Yes.
So I assume that means there's like a capital planet maybe, or like maybe a moon or something.
I would say that there is a capital planet or maybe a moon.
I kind of like the idea of a little moon that these people meet and have their official meetings and stuff on.
But why would you do it on the moon rather than the planet that the moon is orbiting?
Well, it could just be like this is an unknown moon that's hard to find, and it's just for the protection and safety of these officials because they're all meeting in one place. You want that in a safe, secure, easy to take care of place, and it's easier to, especially if it's a small moon, it'll be easier to monitor a little moon than try to keep them safe from a highly populated planet.
Okay, so what if we had like a capital planet where everyone they'd be putting in a bit of misdirection here, where they've got the capital planet with all these different capital buildings and everything, and all these government facilities, but then it's on this one tiny moon in this one spot where they reside, and all of the big business is being taken care of. And so they go to maybe the main character goes to like storm the government building, like their castle or their whatever the equivalent of the White House would be, whatever it is. To go and find the leaders, only to find no one's there, or there's some figureheads that are there who don't really run anything. They're just
do anything.
Yeah, they're just there to look pretty. And then it's just like, well, then who do I go to? Who's in charge? And it's like, oh, it's on the moon.
Well, I think it'd be a bit harder to find that, but I think eventually she could figure that out.
Yeah, I think that they would figure it out through. Maybe they would have to like find some sort of transport. They could get bribery. They might have to find some sort of a transport that is going to the moon. Like, they don't necessarily know where they are, but they know that someone has to go to and from there at some point. So if they can figure out who's going there, then they can hijack the ship, or they can just stow away on it.
I mean, she could even get like an invite as a trap, like one of those, where she's getting a lot of popularity on the actual various planets and like getting protest from other species for her cause. And so they do like this whole PR stunt and invite her and let her speak, and the whole purpose of it is like to ridicule and embarrass her, but they can't kill her anymore because she has this huge support, but they're hoping to downgrade her and embarrass her to the point where they can dispose of her discreetly and then pretend this business never happened.
Oh, I like that idea. I like that idea very much.
And then it could backfire because she's actually got some seriously good public speaking skills and she's been practicing.
Yeah, I like this idea. And of course you'd have to have her sort of like maybe stumble over her words a little bit at first and start to embarrass herself, or they do something where they successfully start embarrassing her. But then she speaks from the heart and is very and gets the point across very clearly, very well, and everyone rallies behind her. And now you don't just have like this one planet that's rebelling and trying to fight back. Now you've got the entire system, multiple planets that are starting to rebel against this government.
Yeah, in support of these people and realizing like, hey, you have the cure. We could do this humanely.
And then
why aren't we?
And the government's just gonna be like, in denial. We don't have a cure. And also, if we were to try and start moving these people off of the planet and saving them, think about what that would cause. They would spread to everyone. Even if we had a cure, which we don't, it would start spreading to your families. Think of your children. They'd be infected. They'd be in danger. And you wouldn't, and also your fuel prices, they would skyrocket. You couldn't afford the other type of fuel because no one's mining or collecting these other fuel sources, because this one's just so efficient and it's so abundant. Do you really want this kind of a future? And these are like the arguments that they're making.
Yeah.
And they are like legitimate points.
Yeah. But she has, the humanity, or I guess it wouldn't be called humanity at this point, but like
we'll call it humanity.
The moral aspect, the moral aspect of it, in that you're mistreating these people, and you can still get the fuel source. There are ways to do it humanely. It might be a bit more expensive, but there are better ways, and that involves giving these people cures or cleaning up certain spaces so there are safe areas for them to live where they won't be sick, and then paying them, and then letting people choose if they want this job or to take the risk, and paying them based off of the risk they're taking and all that stuff, and making it worth their while, and not enslaving an entire population pretending that it's for their own good and health that they're doing this.
Yeah, I'd say this is turning into a really good story. Like, it's got so much into it. Like, you've got the character arcs, you've got the emotion, you've got the roller coaster of emotion, you've got what I'd say is like pretty interesting world building. We still haven't even done much in terms of world building other planets or other creatures that are on these planets. I imagine you could have a lot of I guess sort of generic looking creatures. You could have like your standard blob monster. You could have your maybe some with like scaly bodies, and you could have your fish person and all these different things. But
yeah, it's pretty much whatever your imagination wants you to have, you can have it.
Yeah.
That's the fun thing about alien planets. Or really any world that isn't our world.
Yep.
So you could do whatever you want in that aspect. But I don't think it's terribly important for like the plot and the story that we came up with to design the aliens.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Like,
or even really the other planets. I don't see I don't see the story taking to too many planets, depending on like what type of story it is. It does seem like this is more of a movie or a mini book series or something.
Well, I do think she'd go to a couple planets, because I think she would get off of her own planet and then be brought to another planet where the transport ship gets off of, and then she has to try and escape these facilities where everyone is chasing after her, because it's like, oh hey, stowaway, stopper, imposter, whatever, and she goes to escape, and she starts hiding out in town, and she starts doing some research, and she starts talking to people, and this is where she learns more about like how this government works, and starts to figure out what they've been doing, and then and meanwhile she's being chased by the authorities, and maybe she starts getting like, oh, I forgot to mention this earlier. She doesn't have much combat experience, or maybe she has some combat experience, but maybe her boyfriend, being the bounty hunter, has a lot. Yes, and so she just becomes more lethal.
Yeah.
Anyway,
she has a lot going for her.
Yeah,
somehow.
She has a whole lot going for her. Anyway, so maybe she gets off on this one planet, and she has to try and escape the authorities. And then they start putting a bounty on her head. There's multiple ways that I'm thinking of how she could run into her boyfriend. He could be hunting her down and catch her. She could maybe try hijacking his ship, which I think would be funny. Is like he's in the ship while she just runs in thinking no one's in there, takes off, and he just runs into the cockpit, and it's just like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
And then their eyes meet.
No, we don't want that type of romance. That's old. No one likes that.
No,
type.
of course not. But
no one wants insta love.
But then they, as she could try and escape the planet, and in the process, she goes to another planet, and then from there, she learns where she then gets taken to a planet for her to say her piece, and then
it's probably back home at some point.
And then back home at some point. So like at least 3, maybe 4 planets.
Yeah. So you get to see have some world hopping. I mean, obviously, if you're going to create a universe like this, they've got to explore it. But at the same time, I don't think she's going to... This isn't we're going to every single planet because of this, or this type story. No, it's... Yeah, other planets exist, but these are the important ones for the story, and this is what we'll visit.
Yeah. Plus, when you have a bunch of other planets that you don't explore, but you have all these races from these planets walking around, it creates sort of an element of soft world building where it makes the world and the universe feel very expansive, very large, because you don't get to see what's on there, but you know it's out there, and you can see little glimpses of it off in the distance, but you don't quite see it. And so you get this feeling of a very large, expansive world.
Yeah. And then there's always the opportunity to expand on it with like other stories and other ideas.
Yeah, if you want to make a sequel, a spin-off, or a prequel, or whatever else, you can do that.
And there we have it.
Yeah. I think this one went extremely well.
I do too. Oh god, eventually I got to talk.
Yeah, I see. I did most of the talking here, but like I said, I had a lot of ideas just rushing through my head for this one. I was feeling very inspired.
I can tell. I'm glad. I think it turned out really well, so I'm happy with it. But this is a good place to end it, so that's what we're gonna do. And next week, I will make a rule: no more goo. Promise, no goo.
I will try.
That's 3 weeks in a row where goo has been mentioned. All right,
but this one's orange. That makes it different.
Yes, and the last one was magical, and the one before that was green. But they are still poisonous goo. It doesn't change anything.
We'll call it toxic waste. How about that? Does that make the difference?
We're ending the podcast.
Okay, goodbye, people.